Okay, well here we are. It is, I don't even know the day, July 10th. July 10th, 2022. This is me, landed. I'm at my mom and dad's. Yeah, so I thought we'd make a little video because it's fun. I get to sit around and talk with mom and dad, and I hear all these cool things, and I think we should make a video about this. So I was wondering if mom and dad, if you would share a little bit about your temple experience, because you've had such a broad temple experience. It made me even think maybe you'd want to share about when you received the endowment, when you were sealed to start. And then share whatever comes to mind. I might ask a few questions, but I'd love to hear you talk about the temple.
Let me start. My exposure to the temple started back when I was put in charge of my siblings, and I noticed that mother was working so carefully on ironing things. And I found out she was ironing a pleated, I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was her temple clothes. She treated them very, very carefully. And then about once a month, they would drive from Pocatello to Idaho Falls to go to the temple. And I was kind of left in charge because I was the oldest. But I noticed that it was to her, it was really a special time that she felt was part of her life. And then, then it came to the point where we were taken to the temple to do baptisms when we were old enough. And I still have one of the cards as I was baptized for 26 people. They used to give you little cards that showed how many were baptized for that day.
That's a lot. That's the first temple I went to, too, on a big bus from the Meridian East Idaho Stake to the Idaho Falls Temple for baptisms when I was 12.
And then I still have a little card in my scrapbook. And then, of course, as we got to the point that I met Mother, well, I used to think about a wedding. I mean, I remember lying, when I was a traveling elder, we would just throw a sleeping bag out on the lawn of the Swiss Temple.
Oh, really?
And the weather was nice, and it was calm there. And I just wonder, I hope someone's really being careful with this woman I'm going to marry, because I want her to someone's taking care of her and watching over her. And I think that's probably really happened with Mother, because her parents weren't that active, and she still stayed active. And then, of course, when I met her, then my whole goal was to take the right person to the temple and married her that way. And when we fell in love, that's what we wanted to do. And we had some decisions to make, because I'd been accepted to med school. And that meant we probably would best be separated for a year rather than getting married right away. And one of the big factors was that we wanted to give her parents an option to make the changes necessary so they could be in the temple with us.
Yeah.
And that gave a year. And so not too many people are engaged, was it 17 months?
No, not too many. Not too many.
No, we were 9, but you guys doubled us almost, so.
But anyway, we've kind of leaned toward that way. Then you can take it from when we finally got to that point, we did a lot of letter writing, and the last summer before we got ready, I was here in Boise, and I spent the days working out of the Mountain Home Air Force Base, dismantling the big, helping with the dismantling of the rockets that were aimed at Russia at that point.
Really? I didn't know you did that. That was a summer job?
Summer job.
Do you remember what you made?
Pretty good money for whatever it was in those days.
For that, right? Yeah.
We were saving everything. She was saving things, working, and so that we had a little bit when we got married. And I can remember I had to come from Boise to Pocatello with my parents, because the place we were getting married was going to be the Idaho Falls Temple. Did you take it?
Well, I can just remember in Young Women's, when we went to the temple in Idaho Falls, I had no idea what to expect, but
yeah,
the class was going, and I was excited about going. And I can just remember walking in and seeing all the people dressed in white. And at that time, you took your shoes off and you put them at a little place to the left of the recommend desk. And I can just remember it was a feeling I'd never felt before. And I was really impressed with it. And that was my first experience with the temple, really. And
I remember that desk, putting all your shoes there and stuff, getting off the bus. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just know it was really, really special. And my mother encouraged encouraged me to want to get married in the temple, and so it just seemed like a natural thing after I graduated from high school and went to college and met Daddy, and that old story where Marlene was Miss Idaho, and she was on the front page of the Pocatello paper, and she said she had a brother in Austria on a mission. And I thought, I think I'd like to meet him when he gets home.
I'm glad you did.
You know, and I knew Reed too, because he was below me in school and Marlene was a year ahead of me. But the temple, you know, once I started receiving my testimony, it was just really special to have that. And we went to seminary, and that was just a natural thing. Went to the institute and went to college, and that's where we met.
So did you receive your endowment the same day you were sealed?
Mm-hmm.
And like the morning and sealed, like
we
right after or 2 hours after?
Just right after.
Just go right to the sealing room?
Yeah. There were 2 brothers from my ward that were there that lived in our neighborhood. And then my Uncle Junior, and then there was Uncle Ted and Uncle Owen and their wives. So there were just maybe 15, 20 people. There weren't a lot of people.
That's neat. Uncle Tad traveled from Melba to be at your wedding?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
He was very supportive.
Where did Junior live? I always remember Junior. He was in Salt Lake. He traveled up for that?
Uh-huh.
That's amazing.
And then we stopped in Blackfoot. There was a really neat chicken place.
Oh, you had like your lunch in there?
We had my mom and dad came, and I'm sure Leland and Janet were there. You don't remember.
Yeah,
all the
no, I'm
details.
sure they were.
But we had the dinner there. It was probably at noon or 1, and then our reception that night.
Do you remember anything? Probably not, but do you remember anything the sealer said?
You know, I don't remember that wedding ceremony in the temple. I remember going through the endowment session that she was on, and I remember I was there with my father. That was special. And in those days, he sat back there and taught me the veil ordinance, which, I mean, so when I went up, I had it memorized because I knew what was going to happen. But we were one of the last ones to go through. But he was telling me what was happening, and I've always appreciated that.
So that's when you received your endowment? Before your mission, right?
It must have been, because I knew it at that time, yeah. But, so the temple is important to me because Dad was there with me at that point.
Yeah, when you received your endowment. And Mom, what do you remember from your sealing? I
can remember it was a small room, and I can just remember looking across the room and seeing the people that were there. You know, Brother Wilcox, Brother Jensen. Just remember seeing the people there.
That's great.
I must have been in awe. I think she had me in awe at that point because I don't remember much about that.
That's what I remember with Elder Hanks, with Jen. So then fast forward, regular temple attendance throughout your lives, and then we built the Boise temple, which I remember donating money when I was probably 12 or 13 or 14, and had that built, which was amazing.
I remember I used to be a pastor, and right across the street was a steakhouse.
Yeah, Mom was the primary president in that building, I remember.
And there was how many children in the primary?
249.
For real? And I remember you had to chase some of them down to 7-Eleven when they went down to run away to get treats. Oh yeah, that was me.
Well, I remember we had primary on Thursdays because we needed that space in the room, and we had 3 classes of every age group.
Oh my goodness!
Daddy was in the bishopric.
Yeah, you were a counselor in the bishopric.
Yeah.
So then, when did you become ordinance workers in the temple?
It wasn't until Daddy had his cancer operation, and then he retired 6 months later. And he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to go on a mission. I want to work at the temple."
And you want to go to Europe, or you want to go to Israel?
Oh, and I want to go to the Holy Land.
Nice.
And so we got busy and started.
Check. You did them all.
You did.
So what year did you probably start in the temple then? Or do you remember how many years you've been an ordinance worker or something like that?
It's almost 20.
Wow. So you're at Boise for a long time, but then tell about ordinance worker, anything you remember there, and then becoming in the presidency.
Well, I was surprisingly called to be a sealer, which shocked me because I had not been the bishop. I'd been bishoprics, a couple of them, but or stake president like that. I thought that always went to those people. They called me for an interview for that. And that was in December of 2003. and I just was overwhelmed. But we were enjoying the regular temple service, and we had a lot of different positions at the temple. It was fun. They rotated us quite a bit. And
I remember coming up for that. I remember he pulled out the letter, and it was from President Hinckley, right?
yeah.
And he actually said the exact verbiage when he laid his hand on your head. What do you remember from that setting apart?
I just remember there was one person that he did it alone.
Yep. Others were not invited, right?
It was done on a Sunday, a special time. He just made a time for that in the temple. And because they just started the situation where the temple presidents had authority to convert that the power of seeing to someone, but it was done exactly as it was just reading basically the words of the prophet.
It was, yeah. I'd never seen an ordinance like that. It was very
I
interesting.
think it was one of the first ones like that.
Yeah.
And I was very humbled because my father had been actually interviewed to become a seer for the Boise Temple. And then in those days, the general authority came and to be able to bestow that power. And President Kimball became ill and didn't make that appointment. And so as a result, he did never receive that.
Mm.
And his health deteriorated after that, and others. So they were temple workers for years, but not long. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah. How long were you a sealer before you were called into the presidency and being the assistant matron? About?
Do you know what year we went called the temple?
I remember that story. Like you had kind of worked out to go do a mission in Australia.
Yeah, of course we were back from our mission from Albania, and we thought, well, maybe we'll serve another mission. And so we had contacted the medical department. I remember talking to him on the telephone. He said, I'm in China. And I said, well, wow, maybe I'll talk to you when you get back. He said, no, it was perfectly clear. I could hear. He said, no, I can hear from you just as fine. Talk to you from China here. And I said, we're thinking of this. And he said, he said, we've got a place we'd like you to go. We'd like to be considered. Maybe must have given it one day or talked to him. We talked to him a couple of times. And then he said, we'd like you to go down to Australia. He said, you can still, he said, you'll be staying in one of the church places there to live in. And I said, your wife was in walking distance of the temple. And he said, you'd be there to handle the medical aspects of it, whatever we want to, because we have a rather large area. What's the other?
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
He said, the biggest concern we have is trying to make decisions whether when someone becomes ill, and he said they will, then we would use you to try to help evaluate what's there and what's done, and also to see are they sick enough to come home,
right,
or can
be treated there?
Can we keep them there? He said that would be your primary responsibility. And he said we need you there. We would love to have you go there. And we called and said, okay, we'll do it. He said, okay. He said, you don't have to finish your paperwork. He said, I'll put in the application for visas today. And he said, just plan on it. And
for 23 months,
he issued
right?
a call and said, okay, we'll do it. And then the next day, that was a Saturday.
Was it Elder Anderson?
Neil Anderson.
When he was in the presidency of the 70?
Yeah, we went to watch, I think must have been watching one of the kids' soccer game, the grandchildren probably. So we recorded the conference. And then
we didn't know he was a general.
I didn't know he'd been put in the general authority.
Or I guess he wasn't.
I didn't know he was a general.
Was he a president of his 70, I think,
70.
at that time?
Maybe it was 70.
But he's an apostle now, obviously.
When he called, he said, this is so-and-so. And I said, well, I don't know who you are. And he said, well, I remember President 70. I thought, well, I guess when we looked at the video, it was the President 70.
Yeah.
And then he said, we'd like to issue a call to be in the Boise Temple presidency. And I said, well, we just accepted yesterday to take a mission call to Australia. I said, that's 2 things in 2 days. He said, which one do we ought to do? He said, well, do that in, but he said, I'm not going to ask the prophet again if you want.
Yeah, President Hinckley asked me to call you and extend a call to serve in the
I'm not going to ask
temple presidency.
Yeah, it was sort of cute, actually.
Well, it must have taken a day, because I can remember specifically going out somewhere out in the outdoors, kneeling down and just said, that's one time I said, now, what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
And I didn't get any specific answer one way or another. It just felt good to do what we were called to do, the prophet called us to do. So we called up and canceled the mission to there.
And signed up for a 3-year mission in the presidency.
Yeah, we did.
Which was probably more hours a week.
I felt very inadequate. That was my biggest thing. I thought, see, why me? And but it seemed to work out pretty well. It was a neat experience.
And I was ready for it.
What do you remember, Mama, being called into the temple presidency?
Well, we just kept wondering who was going to
be the president.
We knew who was president, but we thought they usually had told us who the counselors were by then. You know, because before we had been.
You already knew it was Hillam.
Yes, it was President Hillam, and we didn't know who he knew. There were some people that said they knew him that we had talked to, but you know, and then so I was just sort of ready for it, thinking that would be really fun, really a neat thing to do.
They used to say in temple president, either he's a charger or a caretaker.
He's a charger.
And he was a charger. He was a charger. I mean, he pushed. And finally, at one point came to the point, he said, you better not push quite as hard. But anyway, we were putting large numbers, and I remember at that point, we probably had the option for more endowment sessions of any temple period, because we were starting at, first ones were 5 in the morning every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Oh wow!
And the last one's at 8 o'clock in the evening.
I don't know any temple in Utah that opens up at 5 every day. There's one or two that does one session like a Tuesday at 5:30 or something, but not 5 every day.
We were doing Tuesday and Thursday early, but he said we might just as well do it all.
Were they full?
Oh no.
But some were there.
Oh yeah.
They're like, hey, we're doing some. It's eternal work. Let's do it.
It was a, you know, like I said, it was a good experience, and challenging for me. And mother did
in her element.
Mother was just there. She just flowed right with it. Did good.
What were some of your memories from that service, Mom?
Well, it was so fun because I was in charge of the music, and we used to always have organists that would come and play.
Oh, wow,
play
yeah.
the prelude for the people that were waiting to go to the session.
I remember they used to hand out the numbers and you'd go stand by the organ and hear the prelude.
And then it was always fun. We'd go down and talk to the baptism groups, the youth that would come.
Fun.
And it was always so fun when Jacqueline would come or Corinne would come.
Your own grandchildren.
And have our own grandchildren there. And Braden would come. Darren was
Yeah.
the bishop during that time, and they would come quite often. And so it was fun to go down and talk to the youth. And we got to talk at state conferences.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Our president didn't say no to anyone.
You'd sign up Wayne and Teresa like that all the time.
We got signed up.
Here's your schedule.
No, President and Sister Helen would do them if they could possibly do them.
Right.
But if they couldn't do them, you know.
I remember towards the last month of his presidency, he was gone for a while, and the new president was down to the new president seminar, and I think we had 8 or 9 speaking assignments within about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And
that is hopping.
For me, that was a lot.
That's hopping.
I wasn't used to that. Yeah. But the rest of it, as far as the thing I really enjoyed probably in the presidency was talking with people when they were receiving their own endowment for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Explaining to them about the significance of the temple ordinances, the temple garment, things like that. I enjoyed that part. That was just really a fun part.
Any principles from either one of you that you felt helped people receive that in a better spirit that it could be shared outside the temple?
Well, I can remember that there was a lady that lived by us on Victory Road, Nola Ledbetter, who was semi-active in the church when we lived by her. Cliff was.
This is Cliff's mom.
Yeah, Cliff's mom.
Yeah.
Cliff's mom.
And one day, I saw her name on the schedule to come in.
Oh, you did?
And I got to be the one to talk to her about.
That's so sweet.
Endowment. And that was such a thrill to see.
That's really sweet.
To see.
I used to run around in her fields, and
yeah.
her husband took his life, right?
Yeah.
But then she married the person she had been married to before that.
Oh, really?
He was very good to her.
Hmm.
I don't think she came to the temple till after he passed away.
Well, they lived up in Idaho City, which is a little harder.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, she came and got her endowment, and it was just such a thrill to be able to do that. And there were other people too that you know, that it was really special to be able to do that. It was like a 20-25 minute time that we spent with that person and their escort.
That's really sweet.
And that was really, really sweet.
Because I enjoyed doing the marriages and live scenes. That became something I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
No question about it. I did have one experience that is most unusual, because when you talk to a couple and they're at the altar, and you say, this you do of your own free will and choice.
Right. Someone feeling coerced?
And that one brother looked at me and he said, President Coleman, the most important thing you can do is marry the right person at the right time, and this is not her.
He said that right at the altar.
And they were at the altar.
With their whole family there?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, I remember there. They had already made arrangements for their reception.
And this is not her. That's harsh.
Both
Sometimes you might say, like, I'm not ready and walk away, but wow, that's...
His mother started to crying.
Oh,
and the dad
gosh.
came up and he said, well, son, this is the lady you've been dating. This is your fiance. No, Dad. This is not her.
He had some mental problems, I think.
Did he leave? They didn't do it?
And we dismissed it. The whole thing, we didn't do it.
Oh, wow. Well, better that than...
But they did go to the wedding luncheon. The families went to the wedding luncheon.
Oh, gosh.
But they didn't have the reception then.
President Waite said, I'm sure glad you did that one.
No kidding. I wouldn't want that one.
We had another one, too, on a Saturday that the mother of the bride did not want them to get married.
Oh.
And, you know, she just sort of upset the whole day. And they spent 3 hours in the temple president's office talking about it, whether they should do it or not. And finally, Daddy had to go in and say that their reception was going to be like in 2 hours. And finally, Daddy, you know, they said, well, you've got to make a decision. And they got married, I remember.
I don't think so. I don't remember that.
Wow.
I remember they got married. But...
I remember we had one of our all-star sister missionaries in Argentina. She told us the story, but she was one of the really cute, bubbly ones, and she was baptizing and working hard and just amazing. But she said that she had been engaged, and I won't say who. It's somebody that we recognize. I'll tell you off the video, but and the night before their wedding, this man called and just said, and he backed out. So she got to go to a reception and thank everybody for coming and ask them to take their gift home. She said she went and greeted everybody at the reception and sent them home and said, thanks for coming, but we didn't get married. And then she turned in papers, went on mission. And she was a great missionary. But yeah, so after the temple presidency, how was that transition when you were released? Because you were working, as I remember, you were working like 80 hours a week sometimes or more. I don't know.
Well, I remember starting because we had to be open the temple by 4:30. And Mother used to say we got to be up at 4 o'clock or something. And this came about, and I thought 4:30 was good enough to get us to the temple.
We were getting up at 3:20 to go to the temple.
We finally compromised.
3:20.
3:20 would be good enough.
3:20. Wow, that's early.
And so, because we had to compromise, I thought 3:30 was plenty early. She wanted 3, so we compromised at 3:20.
Well, and then some late nights, weren't you there till?
Until the last person left.
Till 10.
So it could be 10 and dark and.
Yeah. What would you ask? Yeah?
So what's the transition like when you were released? What was that like to be released from the temple presidency, and what happened after that? So I remember you talking about applying for Nauvoo, and it was hard to get and stuff. Was that after, though?
Yes.
Yeah, we did the temple from 2005 to 2008.
Okay. And
then we went to Nauvoo in 2010.
Oh, wait. They also did a bunch of renovations during one of the breaks in the temple, right? Was that after? Okay. Okay. And then, yeah, so maybe about Nauvoo then. You got that call and you got to tell us a little bit about your Nauvoo temple experience.
Well, that was after an Albanian mission.
Right. Albania was before the temple, right?
Albania was 1999 to 2000.
Yeah.
That was a hard one. In fact, the biggest comment she made about the Nauvoo temple was, she said, this is like the celestial kingdom compared to the Albanian mission.
Oh, for sure.
And it was.
Trying to bake in the middle of the night, and then the electricity went off again, and you're freezing in your apartment. And
But I was an early type person, and we had very marginal accommodations, which was all right. But most of them didn't want to get up that early to do the early sessions. But we were early birds, and so we took the early sessions
in Nauvoo.
in Nauvoo.
Oh, okay. And we drove out and saw you there. We got to see your cute little house you lived in. That was just amazing with the fences and it just felt like you'd gone back 100 years almost.
Yeah.
Well, we actually had a chance. All four of our children actually came back while we were in that presidency.
I don't think Dana did.
They did not make it. The three sons did.
I remember you walked us up the bell tower, and it was stifling hot, but amazing to look out.
At the bell tower.
And the baptistry was just gorgeous.
It was beautiful.
The spirit there was amazing. It really was like being in the celestial kingdom. We all had the same houses, pretty much, same furniture, 8 plates.
Your same plates.
Yeah. If you were having company to dinner, you
bring
had to
plates.
tell them to bring your plate, or be sure you had a plate available. And the only thing different was our cars. We had different cars.
Yeah.
But they.
How many shifts did you do and stuff? How was that?
We did 4 days a week, and we did them. They were all the 5 in the morning ones.
Oh, you did all the early ones.
Yeah, all early ones. We thought that was easier to do.
Wow.
So we'd go to bed like at 9 o'clock at night, and we'd get up. I think it was 5 in the morning when we got up, and just had wonderful experiences there. The saints were very committed, and we met people there from other places of the country that we had known before.
Oh, wow.
Darren Davenport came
to
this ward 3 or 4 or 5 times, and well, not that many probably, but and then the pageant in the summer was just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And our testimonies really grew there, I think. And I had relatives that were in Nauvoo, and their farm was several miles outside of town, but there was just something really special about being at the Mississippi River. And
I love seeing the Mississippi River.
Yeah, and so many special things that took place.
Really pretty place with the temple up on the hill. But what do you remember doing with your time when you were not serving on those 4 days?
Our P-Day was Tuesday, and we always had a group that we went someplace. Like we'd go over to Fort Madison, or we went to some great big dairy farm once.
Or Carthage, or...
Yeah, Carthage, and there was always something going on. And during the night when, we had a couple of hours, I would do family history. And the people there would help us we'd get 10 to 12 names done a day.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
The people that were there helped us.
One time you had something doing, and I went down and watched a big boat enter the locks.
Oh, you did? Those locks are amazing.
On the
Just
Mississippi.
amazed
Yeah.
how they could maneuver that great big thing. And
Those pumps and...
close it, and I remember seeing that just one time. Mother wasn't with
I was
me.
getting my crown on it too.
Oh, gosh.
She had something.
Dad was having more fun, so...
I don't know. I've never forgot. I was just so impressed at how they could maneuver that thing and coming upstream and move it in there and move up on that big large barge.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Mississippi, and it made me almost feel like seeing the ocean, where you're just kind of in awe, just like nature's power, and just
and
wow.
That the saints crossed that in the winter when it was frozen. There were a lot of spiritual experiences in Nauvoo where you felt really close to the veil.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we came back. We still had a opening space that we could function as a cedar here, so we functioned pretty much as a cedar since that time. And when they divided the Meridian Temple, and they took the cedar lot was divided in half stayed in the Boise and half moved to Meridian. And because we had unlimited, there were no limits to what you could do. We had people coming in from Utah and other places with huge numbers of ceilings to be done.
They heard you're efficient here.
And we worked hard, and we had hours sometimes. We just never moved. We just kept doing ceilings. But of course, the live ceilings are the fun, and I've been very fortunate. Probably the special ones I've had, or someone will call me and say, "Dr. Coleman, you birthed me, will you seal me?" And those have been special ones.
Didn't you have one where you had delivered both the groom and the bride? Is that true?
Possible. I don't know. I remember that.
I think I might have heard
I
that,
don't remember that.
But I enjoyed those especially because I got to see the parents again. Obviously, I had taken care of her as a patient, and I got to see the children 20 years later. Those are fun.
That's neat.
So
So, I don't know, Mom, any of your thoughts about transitioning to the Meridian Temple as an ordinance worker and kind of what your schedule is now?
Well, just that you fall back into your regular spot when you're not in the presidency. You fall back as a regular person, and that's the way it is in the church.
Yep.
You serve where you're called to serve.
I can see Moroni in the temple right here from your room.
Yeah. It was fun. It was different, but it was fun and wonderful. We made lots of friends and had lots of sweet experiences.
See if I can. There it is, right in the middle. Hard to see a little bit, but Moroni and the temple.
We can see him better in the winter when the leaves are off the trees. But
that's true.
Anyway, but helping, we helped at the open house at the Boise Temple when it was rededicated in 2017. And then we helped, no, it wasn't 20.
I remember that.
Anyway, we helped with that open house, and that was very special. And then we helped with this open house here too. And it's just nice to know that you've done something of eternal significance.
True.
It's really special. And working with family history, the way they've made their records so available now.
Online, yeah.
You just feel so close to those families that you're putting together as you organize a family for eternity. And then as people help you do the ordinances, it's just such a thrill. Every day when I turn on the computer and see that somebody helped with ordinances somewhere around the world.
Is that amazing?
There's a thank you in my heart for them.
Yeah.
And you feel so close to some of those families as you see, they get married, they have a child, that child dies, the next child dies, the next child dies, and you just think, how do they do it? Or they've got 5 children and their husband dies. You just feel so close to those people, you know, and the love that goes out for them. I remember there was one couple, it was in one of the censuses, it said that the couple were both deaf. And then they had this little baby boy, and before he was 2, he drowned in the bathtub.
Oh gosh!
And they didn't. I couldn't find any more children for them after that. But I just thought,
so sad.
How sad that must have been for those. The baby could have been splashing or whatever.
Maybe even crying.
And they couldn't hear, and they couldn't hear. And I just thought, wow, sad for that.
That's really sad.
And so I've actually had more spiritual experiences doing the research in family history than I have had at the temple, but both are just really special. But I'm thankful that we're living in this day and age rather than walking across the
plain
desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Walking across
for 40 years, picking up manna every day.
Right. I just think we've got this at our fingertips, and it's just such a blessing to be able to do it.
Wow. Yeah, well, we got the power couple here because Mom puts them together and then Dad seals them.
She's kind of got an end there. She puts me some in my pocket almost every time, and as it works in, if we have time, then we do our family names.
That's so nice.
We give precedence to the others first.
That's so nice. Well, probably some of your posterity will watch this video.
That'd be great.
Anything, this is off the cuff, I didn't ask you to prepare, but anything you'd want to share with them about what you think the temple should mean to them, or what position the temple should have in their life?
Well, I just feel like if you're concerned about something, you can go to the temple and you can feel comforted. You can get answers to your questions at the temple. You can put people's names on their prayer roll. You can feel like you're doing something of eternal consequence. And whether you go to the temple or whether you do research or whether you help other people go to the temple, it's all necessary.
Yeah.
And it adds to bringing this day of the Savior's return closer.
So true. Part of the gathering.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not really good at sometimes working with the living as much, as far as sharing the gospel with the living, but I feel like I can really share it with the dead.
Yeah. Mom is like Ammon. She's gotten thousands to the temple. So
she has the spirit of Elijah.
It's great.
There's no question about it. And just unlimited hours. That's the number one priority right now most of the time.
Dad, what would you say to my children, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and posterity about the temple and their lives?
If you live, be worthy of the temple. And as the prophet said, keep your life on the covenant path, you're almost guaranteed to find a way to be happy and live to be comfortable when you next have an opportunity to be in the presence of the Savior.
Yep. Yep. I
That's
agree.
to be the whole goal.
I agree. I think if we're striving to be worthy to have a temple recommend and worship regularly in the temple, we'll be comfortable when we're with Him.
Thank you.
To some level. So.
And we can look forward to that day together.
Well, love you both. I'm going to let your posterity see your house real quick. So I'm just going to extend this for a minute. But thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to show them the view outside. The beautiful pond. July 2022. Here's their kitchen.
I would have cleaned up the kitchen.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. This is the front area. And then I want to show you Dad's den real quick. Here's the den. And then two highlights I just saw. Here's Mom's torch from the Olympics. She was a torch carrier in the winter 2002 Olympics. Nice family picture. And then the favorite little sailor man.